Hi everyone, I'm Kate, and today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about understanding fight, flight, or freeze. So basically, what is fight, flight, or freeze? So it's just like a physiological reaction to something that's stressful or fearful or perceived as stressful or fearful event. So it's how we react to it. When we're thinking about the nervous system, when we are stressed out, once that happens, then we have these symptoms. And I wrote down some examples of the symptoms so you could kind of categorize yourself based off of your patterns, how you react to stressful events. You can kind of say, okay, I typically am more of a fight, or I'm typically more of a flight person. So some symptoms I wrote down for flight is hysterical crying or having rage or anger, having a tight jaw, clenching, punching things, that knotted stomach, or maybe you're someone that sees red. These are all characteristics of that fight instinct. That is what you use to respond to stressful events. The flight one is maybe you're constantly staying busy. You're really avoiding this specific stressor. You're restless, or maybe being on your phone. I guess that would be a good one that's common. And then the freeze, this one is more of like a sense of dread, that kind of frozen. It could be frozen in a certain body part, maybe in your stomach, holding your breath. Maybe you don't even realize you're holding your breath. That might be something that you do commonly. The blood runs out of your face. You look like you've seen a ghost. It's really subjective to the person that's experiencing the stressor. So I wrote down a couple things that activate this because it is a wide range, and how we respond to stressful events in our life. If you have a lot of trauma or a lot of these activations, the things I'm getting ready to list, you might notice that you inappropriately respond to stressful situations. For example, I'm someone that doesn't like to be frightened. I don't like to be scared. And the reason I don't like to be scared is because I have that freeze. I stop breathing. It's just a simple boo, like, someone's scaring you, but that's not what it is for me. And it takes my body 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes to regulate itself back to a normal, like, heart rate and blood flow. So, that sense of dread is just lingering in my body for 30 minutes. And that is not normal. That is an out of whack nervous system. That is not how it should be. So that's my experience. But some other things that might activate your nervous system or that stress response would be feeling hungry. That is something, like, if you felt hungry a lot as a child, that's going to activate that fight or flight. Having a stressful job or career, that is why I don't do my career, what I got my degree in, because it was constantly activating my fight or flight, like re-traumatizing me to hear these stories over and over again and have these experiences. And with all the therapy in the world, it just wasn't enough. And that's where I'm at this point. Also, toxic relationships, whether that's with your partner or, a sibling or, your mother or father. We don't have a lot of control over that as a child, but, when we get older, do we attract the people that we're used to? So, those abusive people in our lives, do we attract them when we're older? It just constantly triggering that fight or flight, never feeling at ease, never feeling relaxed. I also wrote down here unmanaged emotions, and specifically anger. So when you get angry, is it always 0 to 10 for you? Is that something that you experience? Because that is an unmanaged emotion that has been allowed to just run rampant because it's worked this far, but maybe it's not working anymore. And that's why you're, watching this video. The number one thing on here is triggers. So, I already have done a video on triggers. So if you haven't watched it, please go ahead and watch it. Because it has a lot of good information. But triggers is the number one thing that'll activate that fight or flight that you can control, something that you can get a handle on and work through, so you no longer have to react, to those things in your life. Also, those worrisome thoughts, being someone that's constantly, and I don't want to say constantly negative, but constantly having like that pessimistic view, like, maybe politics, that's kind of a big one right now. That's constantly bringing you down, constantly activating that fight or flight, that stress response in your body, just constantly releasing those hormones. Think of it like a gas pedal. So the greater the stress response is pushing down on that gas pedal, and the more hormones are being flooded into your body to react to that specific event. So you're responding to that threat. So the more times it happens, I mean, you're just flooding yourself with these hormones, and that's why we want to get a control over it, because on a regular Monday morning, scrolling Facebook and reacting to all these political posts is not the same as, being in a car accident and needing to respond to a stressful situation. However, our body doesn't know the difference from one thing or the other. We're just reacting to that stressful event. So that's why we want to get control over this. That's why you want to understand it and address it, because you don't want to have inappropriate responses to these stressors. So like I said earlier, if you have an out of sync parasympathetic nervous system and a sympathetic nervous system, which if you have quite a high ACE score, which again, if you don't know what your ACE score is, please look at my other videos, check them out, get your ACE score, and then come back and this might make a little bit more sense. So having that out of sync nervous system is just yet another operating system that doesn't operate correctly within our bodies, due to how much trauma we experienced, in our childhood and throughout our lives. Because, how you reacted, when you were younger, that's how you're going to continue to react if it worked. So, and having a lot of trauma easily throws off this nervous system. So, what you want to do is basically gather a tool bag of skills, of coping skills that can help you work through this. Okay. So in this video, I'm specifically just explaining what fight, flight, or freeze is, and how, figuring out what makes you tick, what activates you. And then I'm just going to add this on here because I'm going to do a video on coping skills. So you'll definitely have to check that one out, because maybe this is something that you could do. So like I always say, the reason you want to understand this is so that you can address it, because you cannot address it. You cannot get better if you do not address it. So one thing I'm just going to add before I get out of here is breathing is the best thing to line up that PNS and that SNS. Okay. So having that out of sync nervous system. So if you're someone that has an inappropriate response to stress, you have an out of sync, out of whacked nervous system, operating like this, breathing, conscious breathing is the number one thing that lines them back up, that gets them back in order. So it's simple and it's the easiest way to bring yourself back down. So if you have no coping skills, or if you're just starting out, I highly suggest you try the breathing first, the conscious breathing. So, where is my breath right now? Counting, inhale 1, exhale 2. Something like that. There's plenty of videos out there that you can look up about breathing. If you like this content, please go ahead and like this video. Comment below if this is something that you experience. Where do you fall? Are you fight, flight, or freeze? Share your experience and what you do to cope. Subscribe to this channel and listen for more videos that could help you. Thanks.